All right, so for SPY, I say we had a pretty choppy, well, for SPY itself, it was pretty nice day on SPY, right? Now, although it was making a nice move up today, it was kind of pulling back at the levels that we were looking for breakouts, right? So every time it made a significant move up and broke its all-time high, very shortly after that, it pretty much took back all its gains, right? SPY picked up again, it broke the all-time high over here, just for like 20 minutes and then pulled back again. So overall, just trading SPY today, it was more of like you never really had a good breakout and it just kept running. And by the time it got to this point, it was probably the same amount of value that the premiums are worth at this point. All right, so maybe towards the end of the day, we did see a nice bounce here. I did see a SPY bounce off of the VWAP. Usually after running up all day, SPY does tend to start trending towards the VWAP before close. And then just for a little retest, and then it trends back up towards the end of the day, and that's exactly what happened. Right, so one of the members that took a trade over here, I think a Monday expiration, he had about 50% return on this move up towards the end of the day. Overall, nice trend, nice little day trade at the end of the day if you did sell it. All right, now looks like we were kind of sideways in the after hours, and we trended down to about this 415.5 level. All right, so we'll see how SPY holds up tomorrow, expecting that to be our support level, 415 or 415.5. Right, maybe I want to give it some more room. I'll give it until 415, but no, we still have a good amount of time until the market opens, so we'll see how that goes. Any questions on SPY today? Overall, I would say it was a pretty slow day in the market for everything else. All right. Now, GameStop from yesterday had that pennant, broke out on the downside, so wasn't really too good over here. Felt kind of shady. I did hold on to it until this point, until it got to about 154, 153. And I decided instead of letting the premiums continue to die all day, if it continues to fall or if it goes sideways, I decided I'm gonna close the ones that I had for tomorrow expiration and just buy ones for next week with the same amount of money. Right. So I had about 25, I think about $2,000 worth of GameStop at this point. 10 contracts. I just took the 2,000 and I bought next week expiration $200 calls. 3 contracts, right? It did pick up and it was up about $500 when it was over here, and it fell back down to this point. And so I'm probably down. I'm probably flat right now. All right. All right. So that's GameStop. Now some other plays from today. Let's put this back. Overall, very choppy day, right? AMD was probably a good trade for today. Wouldn't expect it really to happen, but it broke from the. It looks like it had a bounce from the $78 level, and it's just been picking up ever since yesterday, right? So it broke its pre-market high. Today, right at the open. Let's see. All right, so was trending up all morning. Let's see the news why. Social buzz. Raymond James initiates a coverage on AMD with outperform rating, announces price target of 100. All right, so that price target on AMD is what really pretty much pushed it up all day. All right. Now it broke its pre-market high of $80 right at the open. Continued trending up, and yeah, so AMD was a nice trade, right? So if you had it for next week expiration, I would say AMD was a good trade for today, probably the trade of the day. But being that the market was kind of weird, acting a little shady, I didn't want to trade. All right. Now, if you guys have questions, just ask it over here. All right. I see a couple of people were talking over here in this chat today, so let me go through some of these questions. All right. So the members benefits package, it is for anybody in the world, right? You might not have as many stores available for you or discounts. It all depends on your location, but it's not restricted just to the United States. All right, so if we have members that are in Indonesia, India, Europe, they all, and Canada as well, they all have access to these deals. Right. Now this day trade, so Ashmini, I don't know if she's here. Maybe not, right? But I'll go over this anyways. If you have a margin account, which is what Robinhood supports only, it doesn't really let you change a cash account with um you're gonna be restricted to 3-day trades for every 5-day period, right? If you do make more than 3-day trades within that 5-day period, they're gonna restrict you from day trading for 90 days until your account is above 25,000, right? And that's standard across margin accounts on all brokers. If you want to avoid this, you could open a cash account with TD Ameritrade or other brokers that support it, and you'll have unlimited day trades for how much capital you have in your account. All right, so that was that question, and I think that's about it, right? Just a cash account, like, do you have to deposit a certain amount? No. So for cash account, you don't have to deposit. There's no minimum deposit required, right? I had, and you don't have to maintain a deposit either. I had a couple of Thinkorswim accounts that were just zero balance for a good couple of months, and it was fine. You could do as much as you want, right? But I have to use it paired with Thinkorswim, right? It's not associated with Robinhood. Yeah, you have to use Thinkorswim. So Thinkorswim and Robinhood are two separate things. All right. When it comes to tax, all right, cool. So that's all the questions here. Now let's get into our main topic for tonight, which is going to be patterns. All right. Now, some of the patterns, if you want to recall on them whenever you guys see, if you think you see something or so, you could go to the options strategy. No, yeah, options strategies channel over here, and I have a chart, a really nice chart over here posted in this channel. Right. So if you want, you could download it from here, so you could keep it in your phone or your computer. And whenever you feel like you see something, you could go verify and and see what really um the pattern looks like, right? It will tell you what your stop and what your entry should be. Just a little. It's not gonna. The patterns never really look like this. This is in a perfect world, it would look like this, but this is just like a general look about how to look at these patterns, right? One of them that we trade very often is the bullish pennant, which is this one right here. So I'll show you on bullish pennant on GameStop from yesterday. I actually drew it out. So let's pull up GameStop. All right, so I'm gonna remove mine and I'm gonna show you how I find it, right? So really what you want to see with patterns is you want to see the candles kind of forming that kind of shape. It's not really looking exactly where they bounce from. It's just you just want to find a similarity, right, in the way it looks, right? So really what I do is I look for the highs. I try to match the highs with the lows and also see what kind of trend the candle comes out of, right? So when you're looking at these patterns, the main thing the first thing you should be looking at is what kind of trend the stock is coming out of, right? That's gonna decide whether this candle, whether this pattern is a bullish pattern or a bearish pattern, right? Um, if you look over here, bullish, all these on the top over here are all bullish patterns. They all come out of an uptrend, right? All the candles. This is a very critical point, right? A lot of people, they just focus on just the symbol over here, the little shape at this part, but you have to take into account the whole thing, right? You have to look at the trend that it comes out of as well, right? If you look at both the bullish and the bearish rectangle, they both look like rectangles, but what makes them different is the trend that they're coming out of, right? So trend's very important for knowing which way the stock will most likely have a potential of going out, right? Now this is not always 100%, but it just makes it, just seeing this pattern, it gives your trade a higher probability that it will work out, right? So GameStop, you could see here, we have the initial uptrend. Now it stops trending up a bit. It starts taking a break. Stock starts trading sideways, and as it goes down and up, it starts making higher lows and higher and lower highs, right? You could kind of see that this is a bullish pennant. And in this case, it did break out on the downside, which is fine. This is probably why I decided I wanted to swing it. I did see this little consolidation, but like once again, not all patterns work out. All right, now I could show you at one time when it does work out. A really good one too, space. Oh, this was probably from last year, December, right over here. All right, so you guys see I have it still drawn in over here on my chart. Now, initial uptrend was right here. But also you gotta keep in mind what the news is. So sometimes technicals only could be good, but having added confirmation such as news or or just upgrades and stuff like that, it all also helps in these breakouts of these patterns, right? So space had an initial uptrend over here, started consolidating, had lower highs, higher lows. I saw a bullish pennant pattern. On this day, I decided I'm gonna swing trade space. Um, I bought 1 month out expiration. Space ended up breaking out overnight, and the next day it went to about. All right, so I got in right here. The next day it was up to about 35. So I bought in at 27, I believe, or 30. It ended up making a nice move up for the next couple of days, right? So ideally, this is what you want to bless you. This is what you want to see for a bullish pennant breakout, right? Any questions on a bullish pennant? Topped out over here at 58 or 60 within that week. In a perfect world, that's how that would the stock pretty much almost double. That's what you want to see. But again, this is not it doesn't always happen like that. All right. I don't see any questions over here, so let's continue going through some of these patterns. All right, so double top, pretty much the stock trends up. It has a pullback from 1 point. Now we when it pulls back, it does find a support here, and next time it tests that point, what you want to do, what you really want to see is the stock break out at this point. This is pretty much a reversal pattern. If it can break above that point, then this is a second top on it, right? So if it does start trending down and it breaks its neckline, that's where you're really looking for your entry, right? The stock should hold this support again. If it does, most likely we'll start heading for probably a triple top pattern. They have that. A triple top is not on this list right here, but there is a such a thing as a triple top, right? It's pretty much looks like a double top, but just another hill or top over here. If it does get back to the neckline again and it breaks the neckline, you can set your entry level right below that breakout point and your stop loss a little bit above it, right? So if it does have a fake move down and then bounce right back up, you could just cut your losses early. All right. So another one. So bullish pendant is one that we trade very often. Another one that you'll see very often is the rising wedge, right? So SPY, I think it was SPY from yesterday. See with the rising wedge. No, it was Micron, right? Micron. So I didn't really notice this rising wedge pattern. If I did, it probably would have been better for my Micron trade, but it's completely fine, right? Not all things work out in your favor. All right, so if you look at Micron over here, I didn't really see a strong uptrend, so this is probably why it kind of slipped me. But Micron did have an uptrend over here, and the stock started trending up, making higher highs and higher lows. But the highs weren't getting it was getting very shortened on the upside, right? So if you look at the rising wedge pattern, which we have it over here, let me get rid of this. If you look at the rising wedge pattern, you could kind of see that the move up, it just gets very like slow, and the highs start getting very close, right? So you kind of really see this going on over here with Micron. Once it breaks below this point where this where their low and high meet, there's a high chance that the stock will reverse, and that's what happened. And Micron made a nice move down. All right, so that would have been a nice play for puts or on the downside, but like I said again, it slipped me. All right, any questions on rising wedge? No questions. You guys are quiet today. All right, so let's get into the PowerPoint so maybe you guys can understand a little bit more. All right, chart pattern. So this is right out of the stock training that we did about 2 months ago. So different kind of chart patterns, continuation patterns. So falling wedge. These are all continuations. So pretty much either on the upside or downside. If you see these patterns in your charts, they're a good sign that the stock will continue in that direction, or it would just keep moving up or down, right? So here on the top row, you have a bullish upside continuation patterns. Stock makes a move up, takes a little break, trends down. Once it breaks out of this point, moves up. Same thing over here. This one is a sideways trend. Could be very choppy over here. You always want to avoid trading in choppy zone, right? Stock makes a nice move up, breaks out of its resistance level. Your entry is a little bit above that point, and then your target is about the same size as the rectangle, right? Most of these patterns, whenever you see the nice move up, the the whole consolidation period of the stock or the initial run up is what your next target is going to be. For me, sometimes it works to kind of look at the size of the run up, but also you could look at the whole numbers and resistance levels as good profit targets. All right. Bullish pendant, same thing. The size of the flagpole is where your target could be, and same thing on the downside. All right. Now reversal patterns. We ran over the double top, head and shoulder. The difference between this and a double top is now you see the one shoulder, one top on this pattern over here is higher than the other two, right? So what you can see is this is to look at this as a person's shoulder right here, and this is their head, and here's your another shoulder, right? So this is why it's called a head and shoulder pattern, right? Once it breaks the neckline, stock could fall from that point and reverse. Right, so I would say maybe PLTR is one of the recent ones that had this pattern. Let's see. Get rid of these studies. All right. All right. So I wouldn't say maybe right here kind of looks like a head and shoulders. Like once again, it's not gonna be the chart patterns are never gonna be too clean. You just want to see like a little average. Like you want to see it very. It looks very similar, but not the cleaner it looks, the better it is. But it's not. It's never gonna be like that, right? So here's a one shoulder over here, another shoulder right here. You can see this as your head part over here at 45 for PLTR, and the neckline would be where the stock bounced every time it pulled back, right? So I would say the shoulder would be this point right here. PLTR did break that $32 point, and that could have been your entry for puts on the downside. Right now, it didn't immediately make the move down. It did trend a little sideways, so it would have made you would have been a little shaky on the downside. But we all know that PLTR ended up making its way down to 24, right? So eventually it worked out, and overall, I would say a good trade on that point, right? Now, how shortly after did it happen? It traded sideways after it broke that point, then actually popped towards the upside, right? So in this case, you would if it did make a move down at this point, you could have take profits right here at $30 or so. But like it all depends on the news, right? So maybe news came out, pushed PLTR up again for a second time, but then it ended up falling. All right. So let's continue on the next one. A rising wedge. We went over that with Micron. Now these are bullish patterns now on the bottom row. This is where stocks coming out of a downtrend could potentially reverse towards the upside. Double bottom, pretty much opposite of this. Inverse head and shoulder is the opposite of this one, and right of falling wedge is the opposite of this. So I haven't seen any of these patterns recently, to kind of say that it's I to kind of relate it, right? Now we have bilateral patterns as well. Ascending triangle is pretty much, it could go either way. If it breaks this upper resistance level, it could continue on the upside. If it breaks below this these lows right here, it could continue down, right? So here's your different bilateral patterns. And a little explanation here, right? Any questions? You guys are quiet tonight. How would you differentiate between a falling wedge versus bearish pendant, since they look very similar? All right, so let's pull up the two. So falling wedge and a bearish pendant. All right, so with the bearish pendant, you see is lower highs as well as higher lows. On the rising wedge, you will see it's gonna be slightly angled towards the, where is it? With the falling wedge, you're gonna see that the lows are they're kind of lower and lower, right? You see how it's slightly trending lower, so it kind of shifts the angle towards the downside. This is where it'll be kind of tricky, right? So sometimes you will see the candles on the chart they look very similar to a bearish pendant, which is a continuation on the downside, but it also could be tricky because it could also be a reversal pattern, right? So that's where you kind of have to analyze what the news is on the stock. I'll look for other confirmations if there is a mix of a falling wedge and a bullish pendant. But if you could see higher lows and a stock not breaking out of its initial bounce point, and that's another one. So let me zoom in on this. All right, so now we have the two side by side. Let me draw on it. All right, if you look at where the initial bounce was for the bearish pendant, the stock never really went lower than that point, right? It just started trending up and it had higher lows. For the falling wedge, the initial bounce was over here, and then it just got incrementally lower and lower. All right, Sean?
Yeah. No, I just wanted to keep going, but what if you're now starting off with like a small account, let's say $500? What are good high volume, I guess, small cap stocks to start out with?
All right, so small cap stocks to start out with when you have a small account. Good question. All right, so I did post it over here. This is pretty much a little quote from my mentor, my Z. It's in the stock trading basics right here. All right, so January 19th, 2021, you can see I posted it here. If you have a small account, you need to be realistic with your daily goals. I see a lot of traders looking at the dollar amount instead of percent gains. Keep focus on growing your account, right? Green is green if it's $10 or 1,000. Just try to end the day green. This will build your account and it will grow your mindset. 90% of trading is your mindset and how you deal with your emotions, right? Finding the trades are easy. It's just how you really execute the trade based on your mindset. A trader's job is not to make money. A trader's job is to set plans and execute those plans, right? So if you're making a lot of money, it's not really like you see a lot of people that are making a lot of money, but they're not really good traders, right? You could throw $20,000 into a good trade, but because you're making a lot of money doesn't mean you're consistently profitable, right? The ones that are going to be consistently profitable are the ones that set their plans and execute their plans. All right. So now some
And
small, yeah.
also, when looking at stocks for beginners, should you try and learn the technicals more so, or try to follow the news better?
I would say definitely understand the news aspect of knowing the sentiment of the stocks you're trading or the companies in total will help you kind of read the technicals a lot better, right? So you'll see a stock moving up. If you don't know the news, what's going on with the stock, you might have like a different like thing on it. Like if say if I didn't know anything about PLTR and I saw PLTR kind of trading sideways like this, I'll be like, oh, PLTR is consolidating. It's probably making a bearish pennant or a falling wedge, and maybe it should continue up. And I'll be looking for an upside play. But if I do look at the news on PLTR, it might not be good, right? So the two work hand in hand. Definitely, technical analysis is one thing you definitely want to learn because it will give you the upper hand. Sometimes you will see some trades that come to play with no news at all, and that's strictly because it could be a technical breakout. For me, I took the training because I really wanted to learn the technical side of trading. It pretty much I figured out the news part on my own, but just having the technical side down with a professional training, it fills the gap in your trading. All right. So some of those small account stocks that you should be focused on are could be American Airlines. Now this list was kind of I'll say about a year old or so. So some of these stocks kind of made a significant move up, so they might be a little bit more expensive now, right? But overall, you'll be able to tell based on how the premiums look. And mostly, I would say with small account, you want to trade with premiums that cost less than $100 per contract, right? At most, you want to pay probably 150 or 200, but that's in a very rare situation. Like there has to be like really good news or really bad news, then I'll take those sizes. But ideally, on a day-to-day level, you want to trade below $100 for your premiums, especially with a $500 account. It'll be a lot harder because you don't really have a lot of wiggle room. Pretty much would have only 5 trades if you took $100 trades each. But yeah, you don't really want to don't focus on the dollar amount. You really want to focus the percent. All right, so American Airlines is one. Those premiums are usually like $50 to $60 per contract for something reasonable. AMD, they picked up a little bit in the past year. I remember AMD used to be $11 when I first started trading it. Now it's around 70s, right, 80. Uh, Activision, I haven't traded this one in a while, but last time I checked, the premiums were pretty alright as well. Bank of America, definitely one of them that I would recommend for a small account. Now the stock moves it moves kind of weird, but it's a very smooth stock and kind of easier to trade with a small account, right? The premiums cost about 20, $30 each. So you kind of have a lot of you could play around with bank stocks a lot more, right? Bank of America, there's Citigroup over here. Now wheat stocks, CGC, Canopy Growth. You also have Tilray in this list. Now, so this was most likely you could see this is from like 2018 or so when this list was made. Walmart used to be a little cheaper as well. Uber, overall, you can kind of see where I'm getting at, right? Stocks are below $100 per contract. Micron is another one that's still pretty cheap for the contracts on Micron, and mostly a lot of bank stocks. All right, you learn how to trade these stocks, learn how the premiums move, see if they move in the morning or in the afternoon, see how they react to SPY as well. Big one. So this is why we watch SPY every day. A lot of stocks react to SPY. So if you could learn how to read SPY, you could definitely learn how to read most of the stocks in the market. They all follow SPY very closely. All right. And see if they follow other stocks in their sector, such as Nvidia, AMD, and Micron. They would all pretty much trade the same because they're all in the same sector. All right. And then at the end of the day, one of the next big things in your trading, review any of your trades you've taken all day. Pretty much making journals, right? Journaling is gonna help you learn about yourself on the most part. What kind of trades you are more successful at or unsuccessful at. So you could kind of know what kind of trades to avoid or to take on with bigger size. Right? What I might find successful for me might not be working for some other people, and that's completely fine. Everybody has their own kind of trading style. Right? Don't just look for an entry and an exit. Focus on what you felt before and during the trade. So what was going on in your mind? Um, what was SPY doing while you were in that trade? This is why we always keep an eye on SPY. So why I didn't take AMD today? I knew that SPY was going it was acting kind of slow and choppy. Right. Next one. did any news come out that you didn't hear? All right. So those are some things that you could use in your journal for kind of understanding the small premiums, right? And one more thing here. These are things that will grow you as a trader. Do not focus on catching one lucky play to triple your account. Most traders get lucky on one trade, but typically give back all those profits and then some. All right. So nice little explanation there. Any questions? All right. So for chart patterns, you pretty much went over a good amount of them over here. Don't see you guys asking any questions about it, so I'm assuming that you guys are good to go. All right. So one more thing that we are about half an hour in, so I'll go over some candlestick patterns. So now candlestick patterns. All right. So candlesticks, every it depends on what time frame you are. Every single one of them has candlesticks. So we know that green candles are pretty much good. A stock moves up. Red candles are when the stock moves down. Here's how to read a candle if you don't know. This upper part over here is considered a shadow or a wick. This is pretty much the range that the stock moved, um, within that time frame. So say this is a 5 minute candle. Within that 5 minutes, this is the lowest point that the stock went to. This could be $25. And this upper point could be 27, and the closing price of the stock was probably 26, and where it opened was probably 25, right? So 24 are low, 25 the where stock opened in that first 5 minutes. Say it went in the next 2 minutes, it went all the way up to 27. That would be your range, and then by the time if 5 minutes were done, the stock closed at 26. Right, that's gonna be your closing price, and if it's higher, if the stock's open was if the close is higher than where it opened, this is what's gonna make it a green candle, right? If this one on the red candle is kind of the opposite, and the open price say would be 26, and the close price would be 25, then there would be a red candle because the stock made a lower move in that same time frame, right? So there's the candle. Now some candlestick patterns. We have a list over here. If you want, I can send this in the chat so you guys keep this reference as well. Very helpful. Hold on. All right. I'll send it right now in the chat. Oh, and then let me download real quick. All right, and here we go. All right, so you guys can have that on hand. Now I'm gonna go over a couple of them. All right, single candlestick patterns. So this is pretty much a stock is making a move. You see any of these specific candles? It could just be one candle or two. It could signal that the stock is making a significant move in a other direction or on the down continuation, right? Bullish candlestick patterns. You'll see here most of the time you'll see this very often on SPY, right? Bullish engulfing. So you see this one that's circled. SPY is coming out of a downtrend. Once a green candle fully engulfs the previous candle, which is red, a candle pretty much opens a little lower than where the previous candle was, the red one, but where the candle closes is way higher than where the previous candle was. This is a bullish engulfing. Usually signals, especially after coming out of downtrend, that there's going to be a significant reversal on the stock and it will continue on the upside, right? So you could trade this very often with SPY. What else? What other ones do we use very often? Bearish. So when a stock is starting to reverse, I believe forgot exactly what it was. I think Amazon had this candle on its daily chart. Gravestone doji, right? This was about 2 days ago. Amazon was coming out a significant uptrend for the past week, and 2 days ago, the daily candle closed with a gravestone doji. This signals a reversal on the daily chart, and Amazon the next day did start trending down a bit. All right, so really good to look at these candlestick cheat sheets. It really helps you understand the candles. All right. Any questions on candlestick patterns? All right. Let me see right here. Which indicators do you use for day trading? Now for day trading, I use the 9 EMA and the VWAP. Right. I find this is the most helpful for me when I'm day trading. Pretty much a VWAP tells me where like the median range for the stock should be for the day. Whenever a stock pulls to that point, a good example would be SPY today. As long as the stock stays above the VWAP level, that tells me that there's a nice uptrend on the stock. It's going with a lot of strength. This is pretty much my supply and demand line for the day. That's why I look at it as. If the stock pulls back to the VWAP line, which you could kind of say is your supply and demand equilibrium level. If it picks up from that point again, it tells you the demand is still there, and the buyers are still have strength in the stock. The SPY pulled back, it held that point, it continued this trend up. Right, so VWAP plays could be very helpful, especially on days like today. You could just play VWAP bounces. Right, towards the end of the day, I did see SPY going for a retest of the VWAP. Expected that it was going to bounce, and it did, a nice 50% trade over here towards the end of the day. Right, so maybe on choppy days you could just play VWAP bounces or breaks, but for me I just avoid them. Right, if you look at yesterday was very sideways and choppy for SPY. Around was this 2 p.m. it did start making a move down, and that was pretty much it. Right, so on a choppy day like this, kind of just want to sit out. All right, and now that's for day trading. So sometimes I won't even look at the 9 EMA if there's a very sideways action. I usually like to look at the 9 EMA as a good level of support when there's a lot of momentum going with the stock. All right, see AMD for today. It did hold above its 9 EMA all day. Right, so in the first hour or so, it was kind of sloppy, but once it started breaking out, every time it pulled back, it held its 9 EMA. All right, sometimes it slipped a little below the 9 EMA, which you can't use a 9 EMA at exact levels. You always have to give the stock some room around your levels to kind of fluctuate, right? I would say a good exit point on AMD probably would have been at this point over here, broke its 9 EMA, and it maintained at that point for a significant amount of time. So on this red candle right here, probably that would be your exit point at 3 p.m. All right, Umair. All right, any more questions, guys? If there's no more questions, we'll go ahead and wrap up the webinar. All right, no more questions. So tomorrow I go back to work. I'm on a double shift, 16 hours, so there won't be any pre-market webinar. We'll be in the trading chat for the most part, and I'll be updating the morning breakdown when I get to work. All right. This is what we use this channel for. Usually when I'm at work on Fridays, and I can't do webinar, I'll update the morning breakdown over here. All right. So I'll see you guys tomorrow in the morning. Good night, guys.
Good night.